The alarm buzzed its usual tune at 6 a.m., signaling the start of our day. An audible groan escaped me as I sat up, swinging my feet to the floor. "What's wrong? You sound like an old man," Anita teased, heading to the bathroom. "After what you did last night, I feel like an old man," I replied. She laughed, recalling our passionate evening. We had made love energetically, and she ended it with a sensual surprise. Today, she was leaving for a business trip, and I would be alone at home for the week. I wasn't thrilled about it. The sound of the shower started, and I briefly considered joining her, but I wasn't up for it. She had taken a lot out of me the night before. When she returned to the bedroom, she was in high spirits, while I sat there feeling sorry for myself. "Come on, old man, get up. We both need to work to pay the mortgage," she said. Okay. "I'm moving," I replied, stumbling into the bathroom. Later, we met for breakfast before she headed to the airport and I went to work. Anita, my wife, is a lawyer, and we both work at a medium-sized manufacturing plant in St. Louis. Her specialty is negotiations, and she often travels with teams for off-plant projects. This time she was off to Denver to negotiate a new subcontract with a major aerospace firm. She embarks on similar trips several times a year, usually gone for at least a week each time. At 35, she graduated cum laude from the State University 12 years ago. Anita is attractive, standing at 5'4", and weighing 125 pounds, with feminine attributes measuring 34, 25, 35. I am Jack Fillmore, an engineer in the same company as my wife, at 37 years old, standing 6 feet 1 inch tall, and weighing 165 pounds. I make sure to work out to stay in shape. Both of us love playing golf, and we often team up with friends to make a foursome. We first met at a company picnic, and it was love at first sight for me. It seemed to be the same for her, as we quickly fell in love and got married just 6 months later. Now, we've been happily married for 7 years, and we recently bought our dream house 3 months ago. It's the place where we plan to start our family, and Anita was about to stop taking her birth control pills when she returned from this trip. We were thrilled at the thought of having kids, and Anita was looking forward to being a stay-at-home mom until they started school. Our parents, who live nearby, were also eagerly anticipating the start of our family. After a hearty breakfast, I loaded Anita's travel bag into her car and said my goodbyes. Tears welled up in her eyes as she got into the car. "I hope I won't be traveling soon, and we won't have to say these goodbyes." "I hate them," I comforted her. "I hate them as much as you do, honey," she replied. "I'll see you on Friday evening, and we can have takeout so you can rest," I added. "Sounds good. Bye." I waved as she backed out of the garage and into the street, then headed back into the house to finish getting ready for my day at the office. Upon reaching work, I went up to the engineering department, grabbed a cup of coffee from the break room, and headed to my desk. As soon as I sat down, my phone rang. "Fillmore," I announced. "Jack, can you come in my office for a minute?" said Evan, my boss. "Sure, Evan. I'll be right there," I replied, picking up my coffee and heading to his office. Upon entering, he motioned for me to take a seat. "Jack, I think you'll like this. I remember you telling me last Friday that Anita would be traveling this week. So here's an interesting opportunity for you. Gil Hawkins, our field service engineer in California, is unwell and can't solve a problem a customer in San Jose is facing with one of our models. Since you have more experience with that model than anyone else, would you be interested in heading to San Jose to check it out? Well, there isn't much happening here right now. And you're right, I'm on my own this week. So when do you want me to go?" "Right away. Ask Kathy to handle your reservations and tickets, and you can give the customer a call to let them know you're coming and find out what the problem is." "Sounds good. I'll get on it right away." I started to feel more excited about life. I can pack, catch a flight this afternoon, and be at the customer's place tomorrow morning. "Okay. Have a safe trip." I stopped by Evan's secretary, Kathy, and explained what I needed in terms of flights and reservations. Then, at my desk, I called the customer to understand their problem before heading home to pack. As I drove home, I couldn't help but grin because a plan was forming in my mind. If I finished quickly, I could surprise my wife with a visit to Denver on my way back. The idea of spending a couple of days with her in Denver was becoming more exciting by the minute. At the airport, while waiting for my flight, I tried calling Anita on her cell phone, but she didn't answer. So, I left a voicemail saying I'd be staying at my folks' place for a couple of days and she could reach me on my cell in the evenings. Everything went smoothly. I was at the customer's place on Tuesday morning, fixed the equipment, and had it up and running smoothly by the afternoon. After checking out of the hotel in San Jose, I headed to the airport in San Francisco, where I had dinner. While eating, Anita called me on my cell, and we chatted for a few minutes. She asked about my folks, and I replied as though I were at their house. She mentioned that negotiations were progressing, but she was tired and planned to have a quiet evening in her hotel room. We exchanged expressions of love and said our goodbyes before boarding my flight. At 9:45, I checked in at the front desk of Anita's hotel suite. After confirming who I was, they handed me a card to unlock her room. Stepping inside, the lamp over the computer table was on, and her laptop sat closed. No sign of Anita. I put my suitcase down and peeked into the bedroom and bathroom, but they were both empty. I thought, maybe she hasn't come back to her room yet. I'll wait or check the lounge downstairs. That's when I noticed the slightly open door to the adjoining room. It swung open quietly. I scanned the living room and the next suite, but found no one. Puzzled, I stepped into the room and heard a groan from the bedroom. My gut twisted, and I broke out in a sweat as I quietly approached the bedroom door. My heart kept beating, but my breath caught when I saw Anita naked, facing me, riding a man whose face I couldn't see. My first thought was to storm in and confront her, maybe even confront the guy, but reason prevailed over my emotions. Slowly, I backed away and returned to her suite. Opening my travel bag, I pulled out the digital camera I had brought for souvenirs and went back to the other bedroom door. Turning off the flash, I set the camera for low-light photos and calmly took several pictures of the scene without them noticing. They were so engrossed in their activities that they had their eyes closed and were oblivious to their surroundings. Before heading back, I checked the open briefcase on the table and found a business card. Sam Harris, the chief negotiator for our company. I pocketed the card. In her suite, I used a camera-computer interface cable to connect my camera to her laptop. Since our laptops had the same photo program, it was easy to download a picture from my camera and set it as her desktop background. I packed my camera back into my travel bag and quietly left her suite. Just before I left, I heard her cry out in pleasure. It was almost too much, and I wanted to break down, but I kept moving towards the elevator. Once I handed back the entry card at the front desk, I phoned the airline to check the schedule for the next flight to St. Louis. Luckily, there was a 6:30 a.m. flight that would get me home by 9:30 a.m. with some good fortune. I thought it might be around the time Anita was opening her laptop for negotiations. She'd realize she was caught, and it would signal the end of our marriage. Back at the airport, I checked into a nearby motel. Sleep was elusive, my mind replaying the scene from Anita's hotel bedroom. Tears welled up, and I let my sorrow flow. By the time I left the motel at 5 a.m., my tears had subsided, and the determination to end our marriage quickly took over. Returning to St. Louis, my cell phone rang as I was getting into my car. Glancing at the caller ID, it was Anita. I turned off the phone and headed home. The ringing continued when I entered, but checking the caller ID, it was Anita again. I let it go to the answering machine, hearing her tearful plea. "Jack, please call me right away. I need to talk to you, honey. It's important." Ignoring her cries, I went upstairs, changed, rented a U-Haul, and returned home to start packing. If my calculations were correct, she'd be arriving around 4 p.m. By 4 p.m., I aimed to be out of the house. It took a couple of hours, but I managed to pack all my personal belongings and move them to a rental storage unit. Before packing, I called our lawyer, scheduling an appointment for that afternoon. After unloading my things, I met with our lawyer and requested an immediate start to divorce proceedings. Tempted to cite adultery as the cause, I opted for incompatibility, keeping adultery as a backup in case she contested the divorce. I also asked our lawyer to create a new will, naming my brother as the beneficiary. At the bank, I transferred half our savings and checking balance to new accounts in my name only. I called my investment advisor to do the same for our joint accounts with him. With a heavy heart, I drove to my parents' house, suitcase in tow, explaining everything to them. They were shocked to hear about Anita's infidelity and the end of our marriage. I asked if I could stay with them for a few days until I found a furnished apartment, and they agreed. About 6 p.m., as we sat down for dinner, the doorbell rang. My dad answered it, and a moment later, Anita appeared, looking distraught. "Jack, why haven't you answered my calls? I needed to talk with you. You've moved all your stuff out of the house. I would think the message I left you on your desktop would tell you what you needed to know. Oh God, I was so afraid it was you. Can we go somewhere and talk, sweetheart? Please, Anita. I'm no longer your sweetheart, and I have nothing I want to talk with you about. I've already started divorce proceedings, and our lawyers can convey anything that needs to be said. What I saw in Denver has totally destroyed any feelings I had for you, and I want you to leave so I can finish my dinner." "Oh, please, Jack, no. Please don't do this without talking to me. What could you say to make cheating okay? It wasn't rape, but I have pictures of it. You should call your partner, Sam, and let him know I'm confronting him tomorrow. Maybe his wife can explain it better than you. Oh God. Can't we talk? Please, Jack. Please stay. My dinner is getting cold. Here's an idea. Write me a long letter justifying breaking our wedding vows. I'm sure a smart lawyer like you can explain how it's all my fault and that you still love and respect me a lot." With a sob, she turned away, but before reaching the door she turned back. "Please, Jack. Don't end our marriage without talking to me. Goodbye, Anita." After she left, still crying, my parents sat there stunned. "That was really harsh, Jack. Mom, do you want to see the pictures I have of her and her lover? That's what's harsh. She totally disrespected me, and I can't live with that, nor can I ever trust her again. Do you want me to give you grandchildren from a woman like that?" "I know, son." My dad finally spoke up. "Maybe if things cool down a little, you might see things differently. I know my folks really liked Anita." "I don't think so, Dad. Let's talk about something else so I can digest my food." "Okay, son. Anita. That Monday morning when I left home, I felt sorry for myself, leaving Jack. But I thought about how wonderful it would be when I got back, and we could start our family. We waited to make sure we were financially and career-wise ready to be parents. Now, everything was almost in place. The trip to Denver was quiet. I sat next to Sam Harris, our chief negotiator. We chatted a bit about tomorrow's negotiations and then discussed what was happening in our families. He knew I planned to quit work when I became pregnant, and he'd miss me. Sam, 48, had been married for 20 years with 2 high school children. We'd been a negotiating team since before my marriage, and we were comfortable with each other. The other 2 team members sat behind us, having their own talks. In Denver, we checked into our hotel rooms, and as usual, Sam and I had adjoining rooms. Originally for late-night negotiation meetings, about 10 years ago, it turned into something more. We convinced ourselves it wasn't cheating on his wife if it helped our jobs. We laughed about it. After Jack and I got married, I felt uneasy and stopped. During a tough negotiation, Sam suggested doing it again to relieve stress. I reluctantly agreed, and soon I was hooked. The thrill of cheating raised my libido, benefiting Jack too. The first night on this trip, I felt tired, so we didn't meet. After our first day of negotiations, I agreed to go to him the next night. I don't know how Jack found out or got the picture, but the following morning, when I opened my laptop, I was stunned by what I saw on the screen. Sam, sitting next to me, quickly closed the lid, and we took the laptop to the hallway. He was furious. "What kind of content is on your desktop?" "I don't know, Sam. It wasn't there the last time I used it." I was still in shock. "Let me look at it again." I opened the laptop again and we looked at the picture together. "Oh no, that's you," he exclaimed. "Me? How could it be me?" "I don't know, but it's you. And that's probably me under you, although you can't see my face. Did you leave the laptop alone at any time yesterday?" "No. It was with me on the trip and in my suite while I was in yours." "Could anyone have entered your room with a camera?" "I don't think so. The door was closed, and I assumed locked. You need to get back to the hotel and check if anyone was given a card to your room last night. I'll handle things here. Try to reach Jack and find out where he was last night. It couldn't have been him. I talked with him at his folks' place last night." "Did you call him on his parents' phone?" "No. He asked me to call him on his cell phone." Oh, I don't like the sound of that. He could have been anywhere when you talked with him. Call me on my cell if you find out anything. Do whatever you can to get some damage control on this. Take a cab back to the hotel. Okay. Bye. I was in a sweat. If Jack had taken the picture and put it on my laptop, I had to think it was a message that our marriage was over. I had to get back to the hotel and see what I could find out. The lady at the front desk arranged for a cab, and 15 minutes later, I was back at the hotel, checking at the front desk first to see if anyone had received a key card for my room. The clerk checked the computer, and I was told that a Mr. Jack Fillmore was given a card at 9:45 the previous evening. The card was returned half an hour later. That's when I realized my marriage was probably over. The man I loved more than anything in the world was gone, but I had to try to fight to get him back. Going up to my room, I immediately tried to call him on his cell and at his workplace. There was no answer on his cell. It had been turned off. Still, I left a voicemail, stressing that it was crucial he called me as soon as possible. His secretary at work informed me he was away on a company trip to California and was expected back tomorrow. That was it. He had gone to California and stopped on his way back to surprise me. I guess we were both surprised. Calling his parents, they told me they hadn't seen him in several days. I asked them to have him call me as soon as they could reach him. I called our home and got no answer. But I left a message there too. I sat in the room and cried. I had no way of reaching him to talk unless I went home. So I picked up the phone and made reservations for the next flight back to St. Louis. After packing, I called Sam on the cell and shared what I found out. He was quiet for a minute before speaking. Anita, I think we are both facing divorce or worse. What could be worse than a divorce? The company we work for has a policy against high-level employees fraternizing. We could both be fired. It would not look good on our records. Oh my goodness, I should have known that. But losing Jack would be much worse, as far as I'm concerned. Losing my family would be terrible too, but I need to get back to St. Louis and find Jack. I have already booked a flight departing at noon, and I should be back by 4:30. For my sake, I need to locate him and have a conversation. I'll let you know how it goes. I have to stay here until negotiations are finished. I'll be waiting to hear from you. We said our goodbyes and hung up. Picking up my bag and laptop, I hurried down to the lobby, checked out, and took the hotel limo service to the airport. I prayed all the way back to St. Louis that I could get Jack to talk to me. I had to explain that it was just sex and did not affect him at all. I had to risk everything, hoping that he could be unemotional about my infidelity and accept it for what it was, everything but meaningless sex. When I arrived back home, I didn't notice anything out of place at first. Still, when I entered our bedroom and saw that all his clothes and personal items were gone, I realized he knew for sure and had left me. I had to find him. After many fruitless phone calls, I finally decided to go over to his folks' place to see if he was there, or if they had an idea where he was. He was at his folks', and the reception I received from him was nauseating in its unfeeling brutality. He informed me he was in the process of filing for divorce and had no desire to talk with me, stating that there was nothing I could say to change his mind. After he sarcastically told me to write him a long letter explaining my position, I left and sat in my car, crying. The family we had planned would never happen. We would never get the chance to grow old together, or experience the joy of having grandchildren. What troubled me even more selfishly was the idea that by the time I found another husband, I might be too old to have children. Eventually I started the car and returned to our now empty house. Jack. After a restless sleep filled with images of Anita and Sam together in bed, I woke up early and went downstairs in my parents' home to make coffee. Then, I grabbed my laptop and camera to download the pictures from the camera into the computer. I had been contemplating the need to identify Sam in the pictures somehow. Looking at the pictures, I couldn't see Sam's face clearly at all, but then I noticed something on his right arm as it reached up to Anita's chest. Zooming in on the area, I saw what I needed. A tattoo. By zooming in further, I could make out a heart with the word Marie on it. Sam's wife was Marie. That was all I needed. So I went back upstairs, showered, and got ready for work. When I came back down, my mother was up and preparing breakfast. Later at work, I burned a couple of CDs with the pictures I had taken, and a blown-up image of Sam's tattoo. Additionally, I printed several sets and put them all in a folder. When I walked to our human resources department, and asked to see the manager. Phil and I knew each other after all. It wasn't that big of a company, and we'd played golf together. I took a set of pictures from my folder and laid them out in front of him. "What's this, Jack? Pornographic pictures?" he asked with a grin. "Sorry, Phil. They may look pornographic, but that's my wife and Sam Harris. And you can see by the date and time on them that they were taken Tuesday evening in Sam's hotel suite in Denver. They were there on a negotiation trip for the company." "Oh, Jack, I'm sorry. What can I do?" "You can terminate both of them for cause under the anti-fraternization clause in their contract with the company. We've never enforced that before." "Are you sure about this? It's going to make this situation public. I assume this means you're moving forward with divorcing Anita over this." "My lawyer is already working on the papers, but if you don't proceed, I'll be taking legal action against the company." "Okay, Jack. I'll bring it to our legal department and initiate the process." Next, I went to see my boss Evan to share what's happening in my life. He was appropriately shocked by what I had to say about my wife and Sam Harris. When I requested the rest of the week off as vacation time, he agreed without hesitation. As I left, he praised me for a job well done on my trip to California. The customer had called with compliments on how quickly I'd resolved their issue and got their production line back on track. He also asked if I'd consider taking over the California territory as the current field engineer was retiring due to ill health. I said I'd think about it and give him my answer when I returned to work the following week. Exiting Evan's office, his secretary, Kathy, stopped me. "Jack, your wife was here looking for you. She said she'd be back later." "Kathy, I don't want to see my wife under any circumstances. Please let her know when she returns." "Oh God, Jack, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a problem." "There's a big problem, Kathy. We're getting divorced. She and Sam Harris have been involved romantically. I knew it would be all over the plant by noon." Kathy liked to spread gossip. Then I went back to my desk and called Marie Harris, Sam's wife. I knew her from company picnics, and I knew that my revelations about our spouses could be very hard on her. "Marie, it's Jack Fillmore." "How are you, Jack?" "I was talking with Sam last night, and he asked if I'd heard from you but wouldn't say what you might be contacting me about." "Marie, we need to talk as soon as possible." "All right, Jack. Can you come over now?" "I have a hair appointment at 1 o'clock this afternoon, but I'm free now." "Do you still live on Fremont Street?" "Oh, yes." "Okay. I know where you live. I'll be there in 15 minutes. When I arrived at the Harrises, I had a feeling of dread about what I was going to tell this woman and her family. Still, I knew Sam should not escape consequences, and Anita shouldn't bear all the fallout. "Hi, Jack. Come on in. Would you like coffee?" "I just made a fresh pot," she asked as she waved me into their living room. "That would be fine, Marie. Just black, please." She was back in a moment with the coffee and sat down in a chair facing me. "Now, what's this all about?" I thought about breaking the news to her gently, but then I decided to get it over with as quickly as possible. "Marie, I caught your husband and my wife making love in Denver. I'm pursuing a divorce from Anita and having them both fired from their jobs. I hate to tell you this, but it's going to be common knowledge very soon, and I thought I'd prepare you. I have photos to support what I'm telling you, if you care to see them." I watched her face to determine the impact of my words, and was surprised at the lack of any real reaction. "Jack, I guess I've suspected he's played around on his company trips for years but hoped it wasn't true. Sam has always been a loving husband and father, and I didn't want to rock the boat, but I realized something would happen someday to bring their affair to the light of day. I guess this is it. I'm sorry for you and your marriage, and from my own point of view, I'm sorry Sam may be fired. He's getting up in years, and may find it difficult to get another job that pays as well. Now I have to decide what I'm going to do. Would you like a set of photographs I have?" "Yes, leave them, and I'll try to gather the strength to look at them. I'm really sorry, Marie, but I just couldn't let this go. Anita and I were about to start our family, but I can't live with someone I can't trust or respect. The mother of our children has to have both of those." "I understand, Jack. Thank you for telling me. I wouldn't want to hear about it from other sources first. And let me tell you again how sorry I am about you and Anita. I'm pretty sure she's feeling just as upset and sorry as Sam will when he discovers that I know about their affair. I wish it was a one-time mistake. It would be easier to forgive. But I believe it's been happening for years, and now that it's out in the open, It's tough to accept. I value my pride, and I need to hold my head up high. If there's anything I can do, let me know. I told her as I left and headed back to my parents' house. Epilogue. It's been 6 months since I started the process of getting a divorce. I got the paperwork finalizing my separation from Anita this morning. I never spoke to her or saw her again after that time at my parents' house. My lawyer handled everything. I gave her the house with the heavy mortgage, along with all the finance furniture, to sever all ties with me. I also had my name removed from the mortgage. She took on the full responsibility of making the payments. Without a job, she had to sell the house and didn't make out well on the deal. She tried to contest the divorce, but I threatened to change the reason to adultery and share the pictures of her and Sam online if she didn't sign the papers within 48 hours. She signed them within the time limit, and that's why I am a free man today. I guess she decided she didn't want me that badly. Anyway, she lost her job, but being a smart lawyer, she found another one within a month. It doesn't pay as well and she doesn't have the benefits of seniority from her old job, but I hear she's managing and dating again. Good luck to her new boyfriend if she gets one. I wonder if she's told him about our divorce and the reason. Maybe I should enlighten him. Marie divorced Sam and took him to the cleaners financially. He found another job after being fired, but he's struggling to make alimony and child support payments with his new salary. I'm now living in Santa Maria, California, a peaceful place near the coast, about halfway between the Bay Area and LA. So I've set myself up pretty nicely to cover both the southern and northern parts of the state. I arrived here about 4 months ago and got an apartment in a complex with other singles and young couples, all trying to save money to buy a house someday. Housing costs are quite high in this area, and it takes a lot of money to join the real estate market. I have a steady girlfriend who also lives in the same complex. She's been divorced like me, but we get along well, and I'm optimistic about our future together. Since I'm often on the road, trust is crucial in a marriage, but we might need to make a move soon if we plan to start a family. You know, those biological clocks keep ticking away.